Perez. Wilco makes a run ahead of him. Bergkamp suddenly changed pace through the centre. It's Bergkamp! That's magnificent! The move, and then this, which left Dabby's ass totally stranded.
Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. We are an Arsenal podcast, and if you didn't tune into the live video of this show, you just missed out. What did you miss out on? I'm not going to tell you. Get your lazy ass over to YouTube, click the bell, hit subscribe, get your notifications on, and watch it, you lazy bastards. My name is Kris, I am your host, and I've got three fine gentlemen waiting to enter me this evening. You heard that right. First of all, the one I would probably least like to enter me on any sort of day, cold, hot, or indifferent, is Danny. Hello, Danny.
Hello, dear boy. It's lovely to have you here. Only three of us are here to talk podcast, Arsenal and stuff. One of us is here just to go, nah. I told you Man City wouldn't win every game. So ask him and then he can go. He's probably got some vegan hot pot on the go. I'm fine, Kris. You're looking lovely today. We've got to get on with this next.
We do, yes. We're on a very strict time limit this evening, all thanks to me because I'm the star of the show. But we need other stars of the shows, of course. That does bring us on to our wonderful, how can I put it delicately? Our wonderful speaker of the people, Mr. Josh Daw. Josh, how are you, sir?
Oh, I didn't know who we were going to go to next. Yeah, I am very well. Made sure I was here for, as Danny has already spoiled, my I told you so moment.
Yes, you have. I don't actually know what you're going to be I told you so about, but we'll come on to that shortly, I am sure. And I see you have been defending the wonderful females of the game today, and well done to you for that. Go to Josh's timeline if you want to hear what that's all about. And speaking of defending the females or just rubbing them up the wrong way, whichever way you look at it, brings us nicely on to John. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. I'm also here to say I told you so, but more about a certain Italian who might be Brazilian, but, you know, for me, in his heart, is Italian. Yeah. Indeed.
And I will be nodding along because I think I was on the island that you pitched up your flag on when that signing came.
It was a very, very small island with very few of us on.
It was a very small island. And actually, contrary to popular belief of what you think we're going to talk about tonight, we are going to, of course, talk about the Villa game. But I actually want to start on another island tonight, the island that, once again, Arsenal fans have been moaning today. I know. Who'd have thought?
Are you sure? That's unlike us.
It's rare. It's really, really rare. But Arsenal fans have been having a little bit of a moan about a certain Egyptian's new contract, and I'm very pleased about it. And I think he's a wonderful man, and I think we're doing the right thing, and we're being classy.
Can I check the right side of which they're angry about? Is it they're angry that he took a pay cut, or are they angry that we triggered a deal and didn't do that? What are they really angry about? Is it helping a guy out? Is that it?
I think they're just angry about things that they can't possibly actually understand, Josh. I think that's the truth. Most people who have got an issue with this are people who just don't understand football, contracts, football in general, life, stars in the sky, all those things. Because I just think it's really good news. And as you rightly said there, Josh, we had the option of an additional year. Mohamed El-Neni, who we're discussing, of course, currently out injured. He strikes me as the sort of guy who will just very quietly sit on the bench every single week. He's that guy that every Sunday League player has. You know that player. He takes the kit home every week and washes it, or his mum does. Turns up on time every week, puts his full kit on thinking he's going to get a start, and he's pretty much every time the unused sub. But you like having him around because when the pissheads can't be bothered to turn up on a wet January afternoon or morning, he'll be there to fill in at left back, right back, centre midfield, in goal, wherever. And that's what I like about Mo. So, yeah, I presume there's none of us in here that have an issue with that new deal, just while I've got it on the mind.
It's not long enough. Lifetime contract.
Yeah.
I think it's sensible. Gets on with the squad, gets on with the manager. Everyone in the squad likes him. He's a positive influence. He's always happy. And like you said, if he doesn't end up playing ever again for Arsenal, I mean, I think he will, obviously, at some point. But if he never played again, I don't think he'd particularly be bothered. He'd just be happy to be around the club and the players and help in whatever way he can, if that's just in training or whatever it is. And positive attitude. He's the sort of guy I'd rather have in the squad than, say, I don't know, you could have someone like an Emi Martinez as a backup goalkeeper, for example.
Oh, we'll come on to him.
One might have more quality than the other in technical ability in their respective position, but one is a dickhead and one's a nice guy.
Can I add a also sensible suggestion as well? I'm sorry, John, to completely derail you immediately.
You're on the wrong podcast,
that.
Josh.
I know, I think so. But I'm just thinking about some of our youth players who I'm thinking of one particular striker who's doing quite well being given a full season rather than being a third choice. Really showing wonders in a league that some may cast aspersions on. But you know what? If you're scoring as many goals as Mbappe, it doesn't matter what league you're playing in. It's obviously a quality player. And that's Balogun. And then thinking about Charlie Patino, who is currently playing quite well for a struggling Blackpool Championship.
Yeah.
And struggling is being nice to them.
I know, struggling is... Yeah, they're doing all right now that Mick McCarthy's in there, but it's an opportunity. Is that a player that I want just to give 10 games to next season? Realistically, we're playing Champions League. He's probably not going to play in the Champions League. Are we going to trust him in a league game? Maybe one or two against whichever teams are left at the bottom of the table or whoever comes up next season? Or would I rather give him 35, 40 games in a more competitive situation whilst Mo quite happily sits on the bench and takes those minutes? And I think we'd all agree, looking at how well our loans are working, that is the situation to work in. And I think the same for Aziz as well. Again, another player that could just be sitting here, not getting minutes.
And it's win-win either way, because you know what? If we're doing just the right thing, as Des has put in the chat there, and as I think Rudy has as well, if we're just doing the classy thing by giving a player who's past 30, who's got a long-term injury, financial security for him and his family until such time as we release on a free or he moves on to another club, for a minimal fee, I'm fine with that as well. You're not telling me that the money we've given to Mo, as you rightly said, Josh, he's taking a pay cut. We're not giving him money that we would be, throwing at a transfer in the summer. It's clearly just sort of money you'd find down the back of the sofa or in the back of Edu's barbecue. And he provides that experience. And as I tweeted earlier on, his smile's infectious. I think he's really good to be around the place. And I've got a sneaking suspicion he might be a player who hangs around as a coach one day. In the background, he has that sort of calmness mentality, and there's Arsenal have got quite a lot of players that are either directly on the coaching staff at the club now or do work in and amongst the club. If you look at like Johan Juru and Jeremy Aliadier and players like that, who are is it Ryan Gary, who's one of the coaches of the youth team? There's a lot of players that people have forgotten about that are still in and around the club. So it's a big thumbs up from all of us, and good for you, Mo.
Legend. And we have such a huge fan base in Africa. But how many African players have we got left?
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the greatest Egyptian players of all time. We all know he's better than Salah. And he's a lovely bloke. And he's got great hair. There's not enough players with great hair at the club. He's
not a bad footballer either. That's the best bit about it. It's not like we're sort of giving a contract to a YTS boot cleaner. I mean, he's a decent, solid pro. And
to the likes of Aubameyang and Ozil, which is what we need at the club.
And scored one of the best goals I've ever seen at the Nou Camp, FYI. So, anyway, so that's the happy news of the day. Let's go back to the happy news of the weekend. As is always the case on this podcast, if you're coming to us for succinct XG stats and to the minute match reports and reviews of the incidents, you're in the wrong place. We're just going to talk from the heart. So, John, let's start with you. On a scale of 9 out of 10 or 9.9 out of 10, how big of a cunt is Emile Martinez?
I I mean, it's difficult because there's like different levels and there's different types. There's like the Drogba type, there's the Diego Costa type. Emi Martinez has very quickly, within the space of being a hero at Arsenal in a very short space of time, to immediately joining another club, gone on to his entire own sort of division. Like, there's no one else in that competition. It's just him. He's winning it every year and he's never going to get relegated. There's no denying he's a good goalkeeper, but he is an absolute class bellend. Now, don't get me wrong, our goalkeeper, Ramsdale, absolutely love him. He can also be a bellend.
He has bellend tendency.
Yeah, it's not quite the same like level, the way he does it and the antagonises and everything else. So yeah, it just made everything sweeter because when that goal went in, I just thought it would Jorginho just come off the crossbar because I screamed so loud I think I nearly blacked out. And I didn't really realise it come off the back of his head, and then when it did, I just like was absolutely pissing myself because of the amount of time he was wasting. Incredible. But I don't believe in karma. I'm not sure it's a thing. But that moment in the game, it really did make me think, oh, maybe, just maybe, there is such a thing as like universe coming back to bite you in the arse for being a twat.
I'm sure this is terrible. I've forgotten the chap's name. God is a DJ. God is a gooner. What's the chap's name? He recently passed away, didn't he? Faithless, the guy.
Jazz. Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't remember his name. I'll have to look it up.
I think I'm right in saying he was actually an Arsenal fan. I may have got that. I think he was. Anyway, I would agree. And of course, we will talk about the game. So I'll keep
Jazz.
There you go. I knew music. I knew you'd be the man to turn to. Josh, I will take it up to the highbrow level though, because there was more to it than Martinez. And for the record, by the way, I've always, even though people had this irrational hatred of him, I've always kind of, just said, look, at the end of the day, yeah, we're rent-free in his head, but he's moved on, whatever. Then the World Cup final happened, and I fucking hated him then. And then ever since then, I've hated him since. And yeah, Saturday just made me just jump over that fence into the cunt field. But anyway, leaving him aside, just a straightforward question to you: like, how big is that win on Saturday? Because how big were those 6 minutes? Because I tweeted towards I think it's middle part of the second half, and I tweeted and said, look, we have to risk losing this game now because a draw is no good to us. Those two final late goals, just how big an impact does that have? And maybe how big an impact did that have on Man City, who then hilariously dropped points at Forest the same day?
Well, I think it was one of those that it shows. I'm trying not to go to a cliche, but you know what? If anyone's got their cliche bingo sheets out, here we go. It's the stuff of champions. Pulling out results like that. It's what all the good teams do. And I think it's always nice to get over or get something over a former staff member, should we say, of Arsenal Football Club, not just necessarily Emi Martinez, but I think we should also take some time to speak about Unai Emery, who I think has found his level within England. He's found a proper perennial underdog, for which ply his trade at, and I think generally they did well hitting us on the counter, but eventually you could see some of the tactical decisions that weren't necessarily his and were maybe taken up by other players on the field came back to bite them on the backside with that added time. So I very much enjoyed seeing that comeback, especially as I was in a completely different stadium at the time, enjoying some people's reactions to, oh, bloody hell, it's Arsenal, I hate them, which was always very... I don't quite understand why a select group of Brighton fans were cheering on Villa, but anyway.
I think it's since Malpai, isn't it?
Maybe since Mopé and Guendouzi, but I mean, Brighton won that game, so
Football fans are
what
weird.
I actually thought it was probably more to do with the media outlash against Arteta. It's just got into everyone's brain that they think he's a bit of a weirdo, a bit too kooky for their liking. But I would say, generally it was a great comeback. Showed real determination. Obviously, the fourth goal, I think, can't put too much analysis into that, other than it's a goalkeeper going against what his manager asked him to do, and we broke perfectly well. And I'm sure we'll come on to Martinelli's celebration and how much, how considerable the amount of piss boiled at that point from at least 3 players who celebrated before the goal went in. When the ball went in,
and the
but absolutely, and but yeah, Jorginho. I think it was a case of, again with Zinchenko as well. Both shots that they had, you'd think a goalkeeper would save that comfortably, but old Ben Swolo in goal just can't get down quick enough. So yeah, I think that's my big takeaway from there was that. When John said he was a good goalkeeper, wasn't sure about that. Wasn't sure. Always still had question marks about him. And I wonder how long he'll stay around at Villa Park, because there was clearly a reason he spent very little time at Arsenal under Emery.
Oh, he's off to Spurs in the summer, 100%.
I don't think he's off to Spurs. That's where I think he draws the line.
No, I don't. I think he'd revel in that. Absolutely revel in it. Lloris has already agreed to go back to France at the end of the season.
Is that to the glue factory?
No, I think he's going to go back to Rennes by the sounds of it. But I think Martinez is absolutely primed for Spurs personally. But yeah, I mean, but fuck him at the end of the day, and like genuinely fuck him, because I was timing it because I have a sad little life and nothing better to do with my time, clearly. But I mean, like 7 odd minutes of the game, like it was just him holding the ball or wasting time. Even towards the end, when he had that, was it? I think he went up for a challenge from Martinelli and then just laid on the floor and feigned injury. Oh, fuck off! Like, if you got it, as you said, John, if you're gonna give it, you've damn sure got to be able to take it. That's the thing.
you have got to be able to take it. I do. Right, it's annoying when a goalkeeper is time wasting against you, but I don't actually have a problem with it. In particular this season, and because of the World Cup, because referees are actually adding all that time on now. Like normally, it would have been, regardless what happened, someone could have been knocked out in the game and the stretchers and everything else, and medics on. It was always 4 minutes was the maximum added time. That was basically it. Very rarely you might see 5. Now you're getting 6, 7, 8. They actually are adding the time on. And if that's Aaron Ramsdale doing it, and it's in a game where we're struggling and he's holding onto the ball for as long as possible, fucking do it. Because if the referees aren't going to do anything about it, because once they book a goalkeeper, they're never going to give them a second yellow and send them off.
That's my issue.
Then, and the refs aren't going to do anything about it. So, look, teams are going to do it against us. I don't have a huge issue with it because at the moment there aren't really proper rules to legislate against it. And they're doing whatever they can to try and beat us. And if it was the shoe was on the other foot and it was us and it was our goalkeeper, then I'd take it all day long. So there's a certain amount of shithousing and whatever that goes on in football that I'm not overly bothered about it. To be honest, the fact that the goals came so late and the way the third goal happened, obviously coming off of Martinez's head, is just sort of like, it's sweet justice in a way, poetic, but it's poetic, but I don't think it really tells the story of the game in which, we were poor first half. Villa scored 2 good goals. We got the 1 goal back from Saka that was brilliant. But to be fair, we only scored that because Tyrone Mings, for some reason, didn't head it out just for a corner. Rather, before I know what I do, I'll just plant this ball straight back into the box when he could have literally headed the ball the way he was facing, which was bizarre. And then second half, we came out and we were much better. And I think the biggest takeaway from me for this game is that win and the way we won it and how late we won it probably does way more for the team and the squad for the rest of the season than us going to Villa and just steamrolling them, winning 3-0 easy. I don't think that does anything. This is the sort of win where it's like, okay, we played bad. A lot of key important players were really poor in the first half. Second half, they picked it up. It was still a struggle, and had Leon Bailey shot that Ramsdale made the save on, that he puts John to the crossbar. Another day that goes in, and Villa are 3-2 up and that was the 91st, 92nd minute.
And another day that goes in off the back of Ramsdale's head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's literally a minute or less than a minute before Jorginho gets probably assist of the season for Emi Martinez's own goal. So, by the way,
funny.
When we come to the end of the season and Danny does his usual vote for your favourite goal or whatever, if there isn't an assist poll, and if Jorginho's assist with Martinez scoring an own goal does not win, I'm going to be very, very unhappy with our followers. Because that should, hands down, that should be the only one you can pick in the category. I don't think anything else is ever going to beat it. But yeah, no, I just think it's huge for the squad and everything else. And I still, there's still problems in the team, and there's still going to be struggles from now to the end of the season. I just think it's such a lift the way we won it, because it's still a very draining game, and physically and mentally draining. But I just think that gives you such more of a boost, and the fans as well.
They loved it. I mean,
I was like, first half, I was like, this is so bad. I was like, if we lose this, that's it. There's no way we're coming back. Even I was like, City will drop points and everything, but I was just like, no, we're just going to fall away. There's maybe a danger of slipping to third or something.
Had the feel of the back end of last season, didn't it?
Yeah, big time. And then obviously gets the 2-2, and you see the clock ticking away. I was like, I guess considering how we played, it's a good result, but it's still not really enough. And when that third goal went in, I'd lost my voice by that point. So just screamed myself hoarse. And I was sat in a flat on my own watching it.
I was the same. I cheered and celebrated it, and then I just sat there laughing hysterically for about three solid minutes. And it should be a couple of things on that third goal. It should be said it's a really good goal if you watch the whole build-up. I think James Gunnerblog tweeted the whole goal, and it's a very, very good goal if you take away the deflection. The only thing that was missing from that goal, and I appreciate obviously Jorginho's wild celebrations, was, of course, if you score a last-minute winner of that importance, you're going to wheel away to the fans. But there was a small part of me that wished he'd have Thierry Henry, Chris Kirkland it.
Oh, yeah.
Just ran over to Martin and just presented him the ball. Said, do you want a fucking time waste now, you are? Yeah.
That immediately made me think of Kirkland, the way Martinez was like time waste and everything. And that had the whole thing.
For the younger generation who haven't seen that clip, do look it up. I think it's on YouTube. It's Thierry Henry against Wigan. And the best part about the clip is not only Henry sort of slotting away and then presenting the ball to Kirkland, it's Kirkland's reaction, because it's Kirkland. He takes about maybe just 2 seconds to realise what Henry's doing as he's handing us the ball. And then he just goes, oh, fuck off. It's so obvious on the camera, which I absolutely love. So, God bless. Danny, you've been very quiet whilst your cats have been presenting their assholes to the screen for us, which is fantastic. You're a cynic, I think it's fair to say. Probably the only person more cynical than I am. But as the two other gents have said, it did feel like a massive result, didn't it? Not just in terms of the confidence, but to win it late. As you mentioned, Man City, I don't think any of us would have seen them dropping points, but I almost felt like, although they battered Forest and on another day they'll win 12-0, I almost felt like the pressure was on them. And there's been this big thing about us going first in games and getting wins and then putting pressure on them. Imagine that City dressing room when they knew that we won that game late. Because a lot of people, I think even the BBC, bless them, has typed up the match reports as it finishing 2-2. But that, as Josh said, it is the sort of mark of a championship winning team, being able to go right to the very end and turning it out in what was essentially just really a very good second half performance. We weren't bad in the first half, but we weren't at our free-flowing best, were we?
No, the brilliant stat on AC Jimbo today. That is the first time that Arsenal have been in a Premier League game and away and losing at half time and come back to win since 2009 against Liverpool.
Outside of London, wasn't it?
Was it outside of London?
Yeah, so it was at Liverpool last time at Anfield,
I didn't hear the outside of London bit. I mean, 18 shots in the second half, the second highest of any team this season. We all knew, we all said that in the show last week that it's only a matter of time. You lot said actually, because I wasn't on it, but I said it in the preview and post game shows that it's only a matter of time until we do sort out this winning run and get back to the team we were, the free flowing, the attacking. And the first half was a hangover from Man City, but the second half it was back on. And just me and John and I think maybe you, Chris, said. We liked Jorginho when he was playing in Italy for Napoli. There's a reason why he was a £50 million player 6 years ago. He was magnificent in Italy. He was one of the best players in Italy in that position, maybe even in any midfield position. He was fantastic to watch. And when we got him for 12.5 million for a player like that, it's not. I mean, in that position, he can play in that position, as we've seen with so many other players. He can play there until he's 35. I don't think he'll be here till he's 35. But the way he's slotted in, best player against Man City, and he was brilliant in against Villa. And it's just come together really quickly. And I think a lot of credit has got to go to the team harmony and the likes of El Neni and the people that he's got out of the club that would have been sat in the corner going, he doesn't know what he doesn't. This manager doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe we should all not play properly and get him out, like has happened so many times in the past. That they just show they're an entire squad. The unity they have is much like the unit we have at ABW. It's just it's a thing to warm the cockles of your heart.
I thought you were going to say massively erratic, dysfunctional, and completely out of touch. I agree with that. And I think on the Jorginho point, I think there's some suggestion going around. I know Arteta's liked him as a player for a number of years, but there's some suggestion that it was that Europa League final game that convinced him that, you know, if he managed the club, he'd try and bring him in. And the one thing that he probably offers us, and actually I'll come to you on this one, John, while we're on the subject, because you can speak well on this gentleman. He offers us something different to what we've already got, doesn't he? Like I genuinely think there's an argument to say with the Leicester game coming up that you could conceivably pair him with Partey and give Xhaka a rest, because to me, Granit is probably one of those 2 or 3 players right now who is struggling for form, and again, it's not a knock at him. He's been brilliant all season. I just feel like the World Cup maybe is starting to catch up with him, and he just looks like a guy who could do with a breather. And that the way that Partey progresses the ball, that the passing forwards, which I know a lot of people were critical that he didn't do. There's a reason he didn't do that. He was playing for Chelsea, who don't know if you've noticed, are a bit of a fucking shit show at the moment. But that Villa Park performance sort of proves that Jorginho could fit in alongside Partey, doesn't it, in the games moving forward, and also I think will give us a really good wise head in those European games, whomever they will be against in the next few weeks. But you've always been a fan, so I want you to blow your trumpet.
Well, thank you very much. I'd love to be able to. Yeah, I mean, when he was playing at Napoli. And obviously, Arsenal for years have been crying out for a midfield, and I was like, "Please go and get Jorginho." And a few people were like, "Oh, I've seen him; he's really, really good, and whatever." But a few people said, "Oh, he's not a DM," and I was like, "And he isn't. He's not really a defensive midfielder. Like, he has his flaws. If you can get the ball past him, progress past the line he's on, and turn him, he's not quick. He's not going to be able to recover." And I think you've seen it in every game he's played for Arsenal. There's been 1 or 2 moments in probably every single game where, our press hasn't been right or our shape hasn't been quite right. They've got past him and they're in at the back 4. Fair enough. I think he'd be the first one to admit that. Arteta would as well. But what he does differently to, say, Partey is that he will interrupt the passing lines and he will read the play to intercept the ball better. He won't necessarily have to make the tackle, whereas Partey's got that physicality and that bit more pace to get over the ground, and if he's not quite in the right position, he can recover and get in there to win the ball back and then play it forwards. Jorginho just reads it slightly better, and their passing range is different as well. Like, they're both very good technical footballers. I think if you go and watch the couple of games Jorginho's played and then what Partey's played, Partey generally, when he gets the ball, he will try and spread it as far wide as possible. So he won't go short to Ben White or into Odegaard. He might go straight to Martinelli or straight to Saka, those kind of balls. Jorginho will only play those longer passes when they are directly forward. And it's almost a straight line pass he does sometimes. He's just waiting for that angled run. Whereas if it's people in around him and he hasn't got that, he's going to play that short passing, just take it, move a few yards, take it back, and just move it and progress it on the pitch like that. It's a different pace from what have seen Arsenal play this season, the way he operates in the team. I do agree with you that I think Xhaka, his form has dipped a little bit and could probably use the rest. I think Smith Rowe coming back is a huge one as well, because I do think he would be a very good option in there as the sort of the left 8 who can get up and down and break into the box. He's definitely got that ability. But I wouldn't be against seeing Partey and Jorginho playing together. It's a different option, and you don't have to have that single pivot. Then you can have a double, and they're both smart enough that one can go and one can sit, that kind of thing. And as you see, Partey's got the ability to score goals. Jorginho, look, it's an amazing strike, but I'm not expecting goals from Jorginho. It really isn't his game. I think even Arteta was laughing about it after the press conference. But yeah, there's lots of people who didn't like him, and I get it. It's an older player, past over 30. He's from Chelsea. Oh, it's another guy we're going to come in. He's going to take a load of money and just not be very good.
It's also the way he takes penalties, John.
Yeah,
takes penalties like a twat.
Yeah, he does.
Get clear.
Although, hasn't he stopped? Didn't he stop?
He did. Yeah.
Then he missed a load of penalties.
Yeah. But the thing is, we got him on a 1.5 year deal. We got him on good wages, not ridiculous. We got him at a very low price. He's experienced. He's won basically everything. And Kris, as you alluded to, I think if Partey's fit, Partey's going to start most games, and he's probably going to play with Xhaka. It's probably always going to be those two until the summer if we get a Declan Rice or whoever. But Europa League is going to be starting up again soon. So what's perfect there? Get Jorginho in there. The pace of the game is slightly slower in Europe than it is in the Premier League. He can control and dictate the pace a bit more. Then you can go, oh, well, maybe we can afford to have a Fabio Vieira next to him. 2 technically gifted players who can just keep possession, rotate the ball around. And it gives us another option. So, yeah, I was very happy. It's a short-term signing. Like Danny said, I don't think he's going to be here for years and years. He probably will do his 1.5-year contract. They might let him walk on a free, maybe. Who knows? But for the money we've paid, I think it's really clever. If it gets us over the line in terms of the league this season, amazing. If it doesn't and we finish second, I still think it's a really good deal. He's just a very good player for the young guys to learn off of. He's got the right attitude. And like you said, Chelsea are in shambles at the moment. Obviously not this weekend, though, Chelsea. Come on, you fuckers.
yeah,
come on,
be nice.
Get that first result.
Find their form, yeah.
But yeah, I think he's been great in all the games. His flaws, everyone knows them. They are there. He does have them. Every player does. But if you give him time on the ball, the amount of those little slide rule passes he plays in, and he played a lot in this game. I think you alluded to Gunner Blog's Twitter earlier. If people want to go on that, I think he's done a little compilation or a piece about Jorginho and the fabled pre-assist that was very in vogue for a while, and how Jorginho is bringing it back. But that is what he does. He finds someone in a pocket of space, whether it's going to be Odegaard, Saka, whoever, gets the ball to them, because he knows if he puts the ball there, Ben White as well, he found a lot in this game. Ben White's overlapping runs I thought were really good, particularly in the second half. He's going to put the ball there, which makes it easy for the guy who's actually going to make the assist. He puts the ball in a position that makes it so simple that you can't really mess up the assist, and then it's just a case of the guy on the end of it finishing that. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased we signed him, and I'm glad he's made some people eat some humble pie.
And he's not
what we saw. Yeah, what we saw in this game as well is that the team seemed more comfortable with him. Unlike Man City,
playing Bernardo Silva at centre mid and left back at the same time.
Where you could see that they didn't have, our back four wasn't necessarily as comfortable playing balls into him. You can see that the difference a couple of days makes of being on the training ground, even just at match level. Seeing what he was about, there was still some, as you say, John, he's not flawless. There's still things that Partey would cut out that Jorginho can't, and passes that are attempted by the opposition that they wouldn't attempt when Partey's there, but would when Jorginho is there. But that's football. You're not going to find this cookie cutter player. And I think those that were looking at, say, Caicedo, and this isn't isn't a bad thing I'm going to say about Caicedo, but he doesn't come in as quickly to replace Partey in these two games as it has for Jorginho, because he's just not experienced enough. This is a player that we're bringing in that is tactically astute. He's played on, as you mentioned, played under Sarri. That is a guy who knows how to play weird football.
If you've played under Sarri, you can play under Arteta, basically.
Yeah, and you've played under Tuchel as well, another guy who has made you yearn for being able to play nice football. And I'd even say, to a point, Graham Potter, because he does some batshit crazy stuff. So it probably gives you that good thing of going, okay, cool, I do want to play expansive football, but I also actually want to play competent expansive football. All right, Arteta's there. And I think that's the thing it could be seen as that sensible signing or sensible transfer, trademark the Tifo football, that brings us the title. Because we'd probably be on a run of 3 or 4 straight losses if Partey wasn't there and we're trying to blood a 21-year-old in the midfield, no matter how good they are at 80, 100 million that was being banded around for them. There's no way you get that kind of player straight into the midfield. What you actually need to plug in is experience.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like we did with the Trossard, was the same sort of deal. These are not exciting signings, but they're all experienced. They know the league. They understand different systems. They're intelligent footballers. They're not going to grab headlines, but you can get them, bring them in, and do a few training sessions, and they've got it. They know what they're doing. They know what the job is. They're also the sort of guys that, from the scouting and everything else, and talking to other coaches, that they're clearly gone, oh yeah, if you tell this guy to do this thing, he will go and do it, and he will understand his role and everything else.
Yeah.
Not every club, in fact, I don't even think you could even say this of Man City. They do have obviously ridiculous quality in certain areas, in the fact that you've got Grealish, Foden, Mahrez. You've got 3 superb wingers, whichever one you pick, either side. But if you look at the Rodri role at Man City, after Rodri, is it Calvin Phillips?
Yeah, McDonald's.
Yeah, and that's right. That is not a knock on Calvin Phillips. I think he's a very good footballer, but there is a drop. It's not the same quality. And Partey, for that position and the role he plays, is better than Jorginho. Technical skill wise, is probably negligible, but for that particular role, I think Partey is the better player for it. You're never going to get someone of equal quality who will go, I'm just going to sit on the bench and not cause any problems. It just doesn't happen. You can get away with it a little bit more in terms of forwards, because you do tend to rotate them more and they get on more in a game and that kind of thing. So, it doesn't matter how big the team is or how much money you spend, you're never going to get exactly like for like. So you do have to bring in more experience. And it's the one thing the team, other Partey and Xhaka were it, basically, in terms of experience in the team. Zinchenko and Jesus, everyone talks about them with experience. They are, in fact, they've won things, but they're both, 25?
Both younger players,
They're still very young,
Yeah.
So I think having it, and particularly having it in the spine of the team, is really important. So, I think it's been a really good signing. And look, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have Partey back and fit and available for the rest of the season. And I would, if he's ready to go, I'd drop him straight back in for Leicester. Not a knock against Jorginho, but
No, I get it.
That's what you do, because that was the winning team, and it does speed up our game a little bit. And I think we played better with him in there.
Yeah,
but
I get
when
it.
he's not there, I'm not as worried, like I used to be.
And for the record, another player, there's another former Napoli midfielder who I would very much be delighted to rescue from Paris if we got the opportunity, which I'm sure you would have remembered how good Fabian Ruiz was at Napoli before he left.
Yes.
It is a crime against football to see the player that has developed into what he has at PSG, where he's just not playing and not being utilised correctly. And it's a shambles, because he's such a good player. And he'd be a fraction of the price at some of these DMs that we've been linked to. But that's a story for a rainy day. Josh, I just want to ask you about the defensive side of things on Saturday. I think I'm once again on one of those islands here in saying that I didn't actually think either of the goals we conceded were sort of bad defending per se. Some people have been critical of Saliba's positioning. Some people have been critical of Ramsdale's positioning for the first goal. A few other people have said that Ben White was at fault for the second goal. I thought the second goal was actually just a very good move, like genuinely very good move. And Ollie Watkins always seems to be Ollie Watkins times 4.0 whenever he plays Arsenal for whatever reason. And I thought it was a very good finish. And yes, I think if Saliba had his time again, he might have got a bit tighter, but I don't think it's bad defending. I think maybe the only fault in either goal is Zinchenko. You lose his possession for that first goal, but any defensive worries for you? Because other than the 2 goals, I don't think Villa really did anything, did they? Apart from that one moment with Ramsdale.
I don't think so. I'm going to quickly ask all the Football Manager nerds in the building to quickly check my understanding that Ollie Watkins is a boyhood Arsenal fan.
I think he is. Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. There we go. So obviously, being able to score against Arsenal is as close as you can get to scoring for Arsenal. At least you're not doing it for Spurs. I suppose is the only benefit that he's getting. Well, we know that big money strikers don't score at Spurs.
True.
How long is it? How many games and counting for the £60 million man?
14, I believe it is now. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Class.
Wow. Yeah. I'd still say I would have been very happy if he turned up at the Emirates because
I wouldn't.
You exactly. He's the player you'd want on your side in a North London derby. I mean, I'd have him on the bench so he gets sent off kicking someone in the face and it doesn't affect the game. But yeah. Anyway, defensively, I agree with you, Chris. That second goal, you just sometimes, we're playing at the elite level. Sometimes some elite moves happen against you and you just go, all right, not a lot we could do with that.
I'm so sorry, and I know many people aren't going to be watching this live, but Courtois has just...
I've just seen
my word.
Both goals are terrible,
what
actually.
on earth was that? I assume, sorry, anyone listening to this has probably already seen it, but I'm assuming Thibaut Courtois thought he was in a Chelsea shirt.
Yeah.
Because he's basically just done a knee pass assist to Mo Salah on the 6-yard box. It's incredible. Wow, that's superb. Sorry, carry on.
Anyway.
Sorry. Wow.
Carry on, Josh.
That's all right. I suppose there was that point where he said he was the best goalkeeper in the world, wasn't he?
Yeah, I remember that.
I suppose Lloris Karius and Dejan Lovren are also in that club of at one point they might have been the best goalkeeper in the world, or best player in the world according to themselves anyway. Anyway, talking about defensively, the second goal, a bit like I couldn't. Yeah, as you say, you could analyze it if you really wanted to, but I bet everybody in the training ground is not looking at that goal and saying that is the reason why we lost the game. There's some things we could have maybe have done. I think at one point, Jorginho could have 2-footed a guy to stop him going past, but again, you're not going to take a red card. The first goal, it is just, there's a bit more that you could see that there was some players at fault. And I think coming off the back of our last couple of games, I kind of see why we concede that goal. But I think if you'd looked at us probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, we don't concede that goal. There was just a bit more stability to us.
I just thought that goal was bad team defending. I don't think it was individual.
Yeah.
That's probably
I think the front three just switched off, didn't press. The midfield then went, oh, crap, are we supposed to be higher up here or lower back because the three in front of us have done nothing. Odegaard sort of attempts to get back.
He's the only one, isn't he?
Yeah, and then the rest of them just sort of went, I mean, and it's a lovely goal from Villa. Like, all the goals in this game were great. They were all really good for both teams. But, yeah, I just thought it was really poor from front to back. Everyone was at fault, to be fair. I don't think anyone particularly did their job properly in that one.
Yeah. And it was fairly early as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were still trying to work out what Emery was trying to do, whether or not he was going to sit back or be an aggressive counter, because that's one thing we do know about Emery sides is that it does take you about 10, 15 minutes to actually work out what they're trying to achieve in the game. And once we found that pocket of space in the centre of the park, which I think anyone that's looked at Villa's pass map since he's come in, you'd know that's probably where the space was going to be. But also ensuring that we had the flanks covered. And we know how narrow we like to play at some point. So once we finally got, I think, a few tweaks in place, then we looked quite comfortable, especially when the second half was there and that presumably an Arteta-style rocket, because I don't think he wastes his hairdryer on anybody to get hair like that. Yeah, obviously we were far more defensively suitable, and obviously Emery makes some classic Emery substitutions and decides at 64 minutes in he's done for the day, and I'm going to bring a centre back on for one of my attackers. Yeah,
that's what worried me actually when Villa went 1-up so early, and our good friend Mr. Martinez was essentially time wasting from about the 15th minute. I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is small club mentality, isn't it? Like, we've got our goal, lads. Shut down the game. Thank you very much.
And the crazy thing wasn't even the manager's decision to do that.
No, that is...
Manager didn't want to play that way.
No,
I also have a question, actually, from Patrick Carlson. Danny, if you could highlight it in the chat. Just trying to work out from Patrick what point he's making on for whether or not Turner needs to get a chance now. Ramsdale and the centre-backs don't click right away. Are we just talking that we need Turner on for the first 15 minutes? I don't quite understand the correlation there. But I'm not sure if I'd want, based on that performance, to be bringing Matt Turner in straight away. Bearing in mind, I don't think he would have trained with this back five. He would have been training with Rob Holding and Kieran and... probably KT, and who's our other? Tomiyasu.
I think the other thing to say is as well that Partey isn't there in front of the defence anymore, and it is Jorginho, so it is slightly different the way that the midfield is having to defend now. Because as I said, Jorginho tries to cut the passes out rather than physically body someone. He's not going to be jumping up and winning headers and stuff. And he's not, if we were playing Spurs, for example, you're not going to see Jorginho doubling up with Gabriel on Harry Kane to win a header or anything like that, because he's just not that kind of player. So there is that adjustment there. But I just think that the whole, in terms of the second goal, it was just the whole team. The front line didn't press at all. Odegaard was then caught out of position, tried to drop back. Midfield didn't really know whether to go or drop off. And it's a nice move from Villa. Sometimes teams will score good goals because, as much as I don't think the Premier League is as good as everyone claims it is, there are still very good players in it.
What's the goal? Sorry, Vinicius Junior's just scored.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's just one of those things. But first half we weren't on it. I don't think defensively we're great, and I think the first one. I think you're right, Chris. I think there is an argument Saliba could maybe get tighter.
Yeah, maybe just push him towards the touchline a bit more potentially. But other than that,
I do think you're at that point you're sort of worried about I don't want to concede a penalty and
exactly
that kind of thing. If I get turned, then he's straight at the goalkeeper. So I get keeping the distance a little bit, but if he just half a yard, maybe a little bit closer, just to pressure him a bit more. But again, we're talking about a kid who is 20. 21. That's the thing. I think a lot of the time you have to remember is the majority of our players are very, very, very young. In particular the defence. So.
I must admit, and this is not a knock at Patrick's comment there in the chat at all. I haven't heard the Ramsdale criticism. I do agree that sometimes both he and the defence as a whole fuck around with it a bit too much. I do, but that's not the instructions that he would have got at Sheffield United. That's the instructions he's got since McAllister's come in, because that's the way he wants us to play, whether I like it or I don't. I'm just a fan. I think you'd be hard pressed to say that Ramsdale has made many errors.
And Ramsdale, if he doesn't make that save, it's free to Aston Villa in the 92nd minute. And that's not a knock on Turner either, by the way, because I think every time I've seen him play, I think he's got better each time he's played and looked very good.
What I like about Turner is that A, he's an Arsenal fan, so he's at the club he would be in his dreams. B, he's pretty much been assured of the US men's national team #1, regardless of whether he's playing or not. Now, whether that will stay the same, I don't know, but for now it certainly has. And I get the impression that he's quite happy to learn. Like he has only ever played in MLS. This is his first season in this country. So I get the impression he would be more than happy to learn for now and potentially another year behind Ramsdale. And he will get some of those Europa League games. And I wouldn't even be surprised if he didn't get Champions League group games next season if we were in a group that allowed it, or if we'd qualified, he'd get the last two or whatever it might be. So I think he's your ideal backup. And I just think Ramsdale, yes, he has a rick in him. I think we all know that. He's only 24, 25 now.
Yeah.
He's
to be fair, what goalkeeper doesn't?
Well, exactly. Well. I mean, David De Gea was written off, wasn't he, a year ago? And now look at him. So I mean,
I've still written him off. I've written him off. I've written him off for about since he joined. I think
with his hands. Anyway,
absurd at the weekend. Some of the
those saves. One of them was Seaman-esque, wasn't it, when he was almost behind him? But yeah, I mean, I think Becker's form this season has been poor. I think Edison's been quite average this season for Man City. I do think the only two goalkeepers that I think have consistently been good this season in the Premier League have been David Raya and Nick Pope, to be fair. And I think Pope's very limited with his feet, but excluding Saturday's debacle.
I mean, to be fair, if you park 10 men in front of 10 elite defenders in front of any goalkeeper, they look all right.
True that.
Imagine David De Gea under Jose Mourinho. See that. I'm filing it in that one where you don't ask a goalkeeper to do anything other than just save it if it comes within an inch with you. If it goes outside, don't do it. Don't touch it. Don't do anything.
No, true.
Just kick it.
I think people are just getting wound up by when Xhaka was at the ball on the edge of the area against Man City twice, because the yips, as they call it in darts. Ramsdale has too many of the yips where he wants to take that one extra touch when he's bringing the ball out from defence. And also, I asked this on Mike's pod yesterday, and they reckon it was. I'll tell you the answer. What they said. I asked, why isn't Ramsdale doing those long balls halfway down the field to a non-running Saka or Martinelli? And then they said maybe because people know that that's how we used to do it, and so they don't do it anymore. But he doesn't even take all the goal kicks anymore. When was the last time you saw him, Ramsdale, run up to the ball and kick it really hard? He doesn't. He gets the other players to do it. Ever since he had that, he went down maybe 5 or 6 games ago, and it looked like he had a sore hip. Do you reckon he's carrying an injury of any sort? Because that was a vital part of our game. That counter-attack from his goal kicks was magnificent.
I just think they want to mix it up. And I think, like, even I was livid watching the Man City game because I was like, why are we fucking about with it? Just get rid. I think against
Arteta said as much of the same, pretty much.
Yeah,
he said, there's times to play and there's times not to.
Times to get rid.
Yeah, they didn't do it.
And I just think that you're only going to play a team with the level that Man City are every once in a while. I think you can afford to play out from the back against Villa because they're not really of the level that they're going to press you within an inch of your life. So I think it's picking your games and taking your opportunities. But no, I think
also Jesus missing is probably one of the other reasons, because
he's an outball,
Ramsdale was always hitting the third man runner as well. It was always that kind of, someone was dropping deep. Has Eddie got the same technical level to hold the ball up? I don't think so, as Jesus. That's the other thing, is making sure and having the player coming the other way. So it's Eddie dropping or Saka dropping, who's then running past them to collect that ball. And I don't think we're breaking as quickly. And this isn't a slight on Nketiah in the same way it's not a slight on Jorginho not being Thomas Partey. We just play differently. They're just slightly different players. And that's
Jesus can bring it down, and if we're static at the time and not moving fast, the only outball in long range terms really is Saka, is the only one with the strength to do it. Martinelli can bring a ball down from the air brilliantly, like one touch, regardless of how it's hit, but he likes to do it on the run. He's got space to run into. If the team's set, you can only really hit Saka with that long ball out of the setup we've got at the moment.
Jesus is good with his back to goal as well, receiving balls like that. So,
and he's quick enough as well to turn a man and run into space. And again, Eddie's not necessarily got that in his locker.
It's not his game. Yeah, agreed.
Are we worried about Eddie?
I was
12 games.
I was actually going to ask you about him, Danny. So I will come to you. Just before I do, though, I did just want to cycle back and just say thank you to our good friend Crimson Pirate, who's renewed for the 4th month with Twitch. So thank you very much to you. Much appreciated. Danny, let's talk about Eddie. I mean, are you worried? I mean, I don't know. I feel like I feel like I go back and forth a bit. Like I love how many people he's proved wrong, including me. I love his work rate. I love the fact he's getting in the positions. I thought he was actually pretty good on Saturday, and on another day, I think he probably scores that header in particular where he gets up really well. You can't knock his off the ball abilities, and I say that hunger, that desire. I think where I am with Eddie is I just wish we had a plan B. We did this in last week's pod, so we don't need to go over the big man up front talk again. But I guess my only worry would be, and this is what I'll ask you is what happens if, he strikes me as a guy who needs a goal at the moment. Since the Man United game, it hasn't come for him. What is the option? Because we realistically, Jesus is, as we said last week, a good month, if not more, away. So what is plan B? That's my concern. So are you worried about him?
Yeah, because at times he looks lost. He's 23. It's not like he's 18 or 19 where he's still learning it. He's played 9 consecutive games in the Premier League and played the full 90 minutes every time. And then he scored in his first game 1 against West Ham, next game 1 against Brighton, nothing, 2 against Man United, and then nothing the rest of the time. But then you look at the amount of shots that he's having, going backwards, Villa, 5, 4, 1, 2, 6, 5, 2, 2, 4. I mean, you add all those up, that's averaging out to be about 3 shots per game. And that's not even, the amount of chances that he had against Villa. He had 2 headers that hit the bar. Another one that I think a diving one that he missed. He just looks like he isn't on his game, and it is worrying. But to get 3 goals from 9 games, I know, would Jesus have got more than 3 in 9? Maybe he would have got 4, possibly 5 against some of those teams. But Jesus offers more than just standing around up front with your hands in your pockets waiting for something to happen. He doesn't create anything apart from that cross where he did create the goal. I think, was it against Villa? He did a couple of decent things, but Villa aren't a good team. And I do worry that there is nobody else. How many teams in the Premier League, apart from Chelsea, can go, we've only got one forward who's playing football. They've got that 12-year-old they got from Sweden.
Well, Man United have only got one forward at the moment, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, only got one.
No, they've got about 5, but only one of them scores goals.
But we need somebody, and there was plenty of chances to get. Like Man United got in, they got Weghorst in on loan. It's just like last season.
Excuse me, Weghorst is not a striker. He's a number 10.
No, he's a number 10 now. He's a deep lying number 10 at that.
Excellent.
He's a link man.
It's just worrying that there is no alternatives. All the youth players, as in Balogun and Beerith and all those others, they've all gone out on loan. There's nobody else at the club at any level who can step in and do anything, and that's worrying. Not only if he got injured, but he's massively out of form. He doesn't look confident, which means he's probably going to go and bang in a hat-trick against Leicester. But he just doesn't look like, when someone comes on as a sub, they look uncomfortable. They're not settling in. After 9 consecutive games, he still looks like he's uncomfortable and not settling into the flow of the game. And it's worrying.
He looks like a guy to me who's almost knows that he's the only one. That's the bit that worries me. He almost looks like a guy going, shit, if I don't score. When you saw Martin Odegaard's face after he missed that chance, and by the way, I'm very glad we won that game because I genuinely think he'd have driven himself to Tamar Bridge and thrown himself off if that had been, if we hadn't got the win. I joke, of course, please don't do that. But I just feel like Eddie sort of has that. It's almost like sometimes he's trying too hard because he knows he is the only one there. Would you let me ask Josh on this one because you saw Leandro Trossard more than we did. I'm not really on this bandwagon of playing him up front because I don't think he's a striker. I do get that he can play the false 9, but I would be more keen to do what I think John suggested last week in moving Martinelli into that role if you wanted to mix it up and bringing Trossard in, then I would be putting Trossard as the 9. Would you agree with that based on his Brighton days?
I suppose so. The question I'm going to ask is there a difference between playing number 9 and playing number 9, if you know what I mean?
Not in our system, I suppose, yeah.
No, so that's what I see with Trossard. Trossard, yes, he played number 9 in a false 9. Was he effective there? There's a different question to whether or not he played there. Factually, he has played number 9 for Brighton. In my last 3 games that I saw him play there, completely ineffectual, pointless. You might as well have played the corner flag and had all the structural integrity of one of those balloon things you see outside of a car forecourt.
Oh, windy wavy man.
Yeah, one of them. He was just, we just bounce off players. It doesn't like, this is one thing you'll find about Trossard, doesn't like it up him. And unfortunately, in the Premier League,
oh, it's so hard to say strange for a Brighton boy. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, well.
Fucking hell.
John, come on, John, we're past that now.
We're better than
2023.
We had a viewer turn off last week on the YouTube comment saying that because we brought up race, you can't bring up that as well. Jesus Christ, we'll get cancelled.
I used to go to gay bars all the time in Brighton, just to let everyone know.
I
Did very well
do.
for myself. Yeah.
Views of John Welsh are not the views of ABW. Please continue, Josh.
Thank you. My views of Trossard as a number 9 are the views of ABW. I'm going to add that though. But yeah, I don't see that necessarily being the problem. I would say if you've got a striker who is woefully out of form and not necessarily bringing anything to or perceived to bring anything to the game, there's nothing like a better bit of medicine than playing Danny Ward in your next game, because we know where Jerry Painton is now. He is up there coaching the goalkeepers and advising Brendan Rodgers that the man that they've gone, you don't need to replace Kasper Schmeichel. We got this kid. Yeah, he's great. Yeah, that's that I think the Leicester game is an opportunity there for Eddie just to get back into the groove, get some more goals in there, and there is an opportunity, I think, for him to improve his all-round game. It's always been a criticism of mine of his game, is that he doesn't link up as well with other players. It's almost, you can see it so much more with the difference when Jesus isn't inside. I think Martinelli looks basically isolated for the past 10, 15 games or so since Jesus has been out. And partly not helped by what we mentioned, that Xhaka seemingly refuses to pass to him. But otherwise, it's also because there's that lack of link up. Eddie isn't comfortable being in a position where basically he can't score from, which fair play to him. And I believe there may have been another goalkeeping incident in the Liverpool game. And can I pass over to the correspondent in somewhere in Essex?
There's been a goal in Anfield. Who's got it, Cammy?
I don't know.
It's like, who could be more shit after I just said he'd had a poor season as well?
So Vinicius, what? Hang on. Vinicius runs through, and then what on earth has he done?
He just clatters it at him.
Becker just kicks it straight at Vinicius, and it just loops back over him into the goal. That is hilarious.
It's so casual.
Wow, that is so. What? He could just pass it to Virgil van Dijk right there. He looks like he's trying to pass back to Gomez.
He does.
Is that Gomez playing?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh my word.
I think
that's shocking. Well, if you haven't watched the Liverpool Madrid game, it's worth watching just for the stupid goals.
I would like to say it's also even better when John does the correspondence and moves his head away from the microphone because he goes up an octave or two. It sounds like you're on helium. It's great. You should listen back to it. But yeah, I think, Chris, back to you in the studio.
Can I just say quickly on the Eddie thing, because I know we are pushed for time.
Yes.
But his XG, and I know not everyone is a big XG believer, his XG for the season just in the Premier League is 8.05, and he has 4 goals.
So it's about right.
It's, he's underperforming a little bit, but it is only a little bit. And I think another day the header that goes in, there's been other games where he's missed easier chances.
Well, the Man City header is the one, isn't it? That's the one where you say any striker worth his salt puts that
should
away.
At least put it on target, is the thing. But I've got a lovely thing here. It's got all every single shot he's taken. It's all color coded for missed, blocked, hit the post or scored. It was a wonderful website. I shall send to Danny.
I'm not like worried about him per se. I just feel that the concern is that other teams are going to look at us and go, well, they've got one striker. We've just got to shut that one striker out of the game. And this is where I'll come back to you, John, because this is where Napoli are in front as well. This is where the other part comes into this discussion and how good Bukayo Saka is. I mean, all the plaudits are going to Marcus Rashford at the moment. And to be fair, rightly so, he is playing very, very well.
Yeah.
But this kid, Saka, I mean, to be honest, I don't really want to get into this debate of is he kicked too much or not enough, because I'm just a bit bored by it. What I loved about him on Saturday was that he took a kicking and he just kept going.
Yeah.
He had that bit of spite where he got in Coutinho's face, and it was a poor challenge. Like, he had every right to get in his face, but a bit of strapping, get on with it. This is a lad who was on the floor after England's hilarious loss to Italy. This is a kid who got racially abused, let's not forget, after that incident, which could have mentally broken a lesser professional. He's played almost every game that season. I still remember that tweet that he put out during the lockdown season, which is just like a picture of him on the floor, and he's like, Gunners, you deserve better. And I just, ever since then, he's just been relentless. Played in the World Cup, outperformed for England. He's just fantastic, isn't he? And that new deal is so important. I don't doubt he'll sign it. I mean, to me, I think at this stage, it's give him Martinelli's pen and just get him to write whatever numbers he wants on the sheet. For me, that's what you do with that. But he is so vital, isn't he, that he continues to do the thing that some people were saying, but he doesn't really get any goals. But he's changed that this season so much, hasn't he? He's such a threat in behind.
Yeah, I mean, he's always. I mean, he's been getting goals, but the consistency with which he does it now is kind of ridiculous. And we've seen teams double up or sometimes triple up on him. And I'll be honest, for him, it's obviously been a bit of a struggle in terms of the physicality. But that's, if you're that good a player, you're just going to have to put up with it. You don't have a choice. That's just going to happen. You look at any skillful, strong physical player, Zaha, prime example. Some people, you can go the Zaha route and bitch and whine about it and have your few odd shiny moments in a season where he really does well. Or you can do what Saka's doing and just get on with it. And that is what he's doing. And long may that continue. And the other thing as well is teams are going to focus on him so much that all that does is free up an Nketiah, Martinelli, Trossard, Odegaard, whoever else it is, because it's just going to open space up for those players.
I think that's the big thing with us, right? Is that we've got 3-4 players with plus or minus the same goals of probably 3 covers.
Yeah, the front four, basically, they're all within 3 goals of each other, something like that.
Yeah.
Which to me says that, shut down one of our players. At the moment, it looks like Martinelli is the one that's being shut down because he had that run, didn't he?
Yeah.
Lest we forget, of 5 straight games, 5 goals. Suddenly, players tried to shut him down. It's now happening with Saka on the other side because Eddie had that run where he started scoring loads. So it's gone out that way. And Odegaard, he's still in the middle, pulling all the strings. We've now got a guy in behind him who can play those passes just as well as he can in terms of Jorginho. So I think we've got a lot of options for picking locks. And that comes down to the squad building, I think. And that's a credit to not only Arteta, but the team behind him as well, for identifying that we needed to bring that creativity back in and set them up in such a way that we've got multiple threats. And he
reminds me a little bit of when Perez was in his that season that Perez had before he got that injury, where he would get kicked time and again. And although Robert was a little bit more familiar with the ground than Saka was, he would never stay down. He would use that to his advantage. That would fire him, and he would just take on the game and go, right, well, I'm just gonna destroy you then. And it's the same mentality that Messi's had throughout his career. It's what separates those true greats from those. Like if you said like what separates Neymar and Messi, for example, that they're both probably technically on a very similar level, however absurd that might sound. But the difference is even Ronaldo, to a lesser degree when he was young, roll around all over the place. The older they've got, they take kicks time and time again. They just get up. I guess where the outcry is coming, and I know a lot of journalists have gone on this piece today, is like how much protection that he should be given before one of these kicks actually does give him a serious injury. And I do understand that, but I just think if you're Saka and you know that you can take a bit of a kicking, but you've got the opposition on strings, then you literally do your talking with your feet.
Yeah, and
Do
I
you
think
want to see that thing that? Go on, Josh.
Yeah, I was going to say there's also a hell of a lot of luck that goes into top level players' careers.
Yeah, agreed.
Messi could have easily have had a broken leg at some point in his career. Do you think the Spanish league doesn't put in some horrific challenges?
Oh, he got smashed around every week, didn't you?
Yeah, the same with you could say in France again with Neymar. You've seen some of the tackles that go in with Brazil. Yeah, if some of the centre backs were quick enough to get close to him, they would have snapped him in half, and some of them did. So there's definitely a bit of luck that comes with these top level players. You can string off a number of top players. We've got one of our ranks that's currently managing our under 18s who if he didn't get smashed at one point with semi-innocuous but definitely hateful challenges, would have been a world beater. We've got a list longer than some other clubs where we can pinpoint players like that. Thinking about Aaron Ramsey, probably one of the only players I can think of that came back not stronger from a broken leg, but went on to continue playing well as well. If I get my timeline right, he has his broken leg and then goes into being scoring 16 goals from midfield in a season where, unfortunately, due to a massive injury earlier in his career, means he's injury prone for the rest of his life.
Same with Diaby, isn't it? One very bad injury and it affected everything about how he recovered and the strength of the other leg, etc. Yeah, agreed. I just think we're very lucky to have such a and he strikes me as such a humble. I mean, he's a man of faith. He's obviously one of the Highland Academy. He's come through the system all the way through, and he just strikes me as a very hardworking, sort of gratified, good all round guy, like genuine good all round player. And you can always get the mark of a good player when the opposition supporters are booing him for no apparent reason. Like Villa have absolutely no reason to boo him, and they spent the entire time booing him when he went down once. Like, took one bad tackle, and then Villa booed him, and that's when you know you've got a good player in your hands, when the opposition can't handle it. Real Madrid should be in front. Never mind.
Paul Posnan in my pants the other day tweeted that Saka is the 100th most fouled player in the Premier League. You put the stats up for it, and I thought that's not right. But that is from transfermarket.com that says he is getting fouled on average 1.82 times a game. And then someone else called I can't remember his name. It was nope, gone. He went and got the FB Ref one, and he is the 9th most fouled player with 40 fouls. And the first is Zaha, Ayew, Grealish, Tony, Bowen, Guimar, Bruno, Ryan Yates, Brendan Arneson, and then Saka. But
I take exception to those stats because that's just fouls that are given.
Yeah, fouls that have been seen.
Yeah, and fouls that the incompetent referees of our league actually give.
At least double that.
Yeah, and I think back to and I think Grealish is the example I think back to, because when he was at Villa, he was kicked repeatedly, wasn't he? Like every single team that played him, but it was different to Man City, because at Man City they've obviously got several different weapons in more ways than one. But they've got a lot of different sort of players to defend. Whereas I think at Villa, he was clearly, it's like you kick Grealish out of the game, you stop Villa. So yeah, I do wonder if Saka is actually getting far more, or should be getting far more fouls. I don't know. I just think as long as only he will tell you how he is, and I think a couple of podcasts have highlighted that there's no way that he doesn't go into games carrying little knocks and niggles and bumps and bruises. But what I like about him is he's not a guy who's just going to cry and, take another 6 to 8 months off crying about it. He's just going to get on with it, isn't he? 6 to 8 weeks rather. He's just going to get on with it. Bit of treatment, strap me up. Kieran Tierney is another one like that. You'd think, Any sort of long-term injury, fine, that's different. But a niggle, he's just going to play through it. The only thing with Saka is we have to be careful as his club that we manage him correctly, and that's probably where Mikel might have to rethink it beyond this season, because clearly we need him for every game this season. But when we do get back into Touchwood, Champions League, etc., we are going to have to be a bit more careful with the squad size and managing players like that, because as Martinelli's proved, you can't be in form all season. You're going to have peaks and troughs, and that's when players need to come in and out of the team. So, yeah, I think all in all, we can be happy with what we got on Saturday, certainly in terms of results. And like I said, that Chris Wood goal was just the icing on the cherry on the cake, wasn't it? Because that leaves us in a position now where we have got the 2-point cushion. You know, the game in hand, I almost feel it's a little bit of a red herring, because we've still got to go away to Man City. So if you just say that's a loss, then that's kind of the game in hand gone. I'm not saying we will lose, by the way. Just saying if you consider it as a game that we could potentially lose, then, you know, the home game with Everton doesn't really count as a game in hand. I want to say hello to Sir Nicholas, by the way, who's in the Twitch chat. We'd like to give a little salute to our Twitch buddies. So good evening to you. We are, as I said at the start, we are a little bit pushed for time this week. So we are going to go into questions now. So if anyone has any questions, pop them in. We've got a few, I think, already. So, Danny, which ones have we got so far that you have noticed?
Do you want to do them, John? Because we very rarely see you because you're such a busy man.
Sure.
People want to hear you more than they want to hear me.
All right. Well, just for that, then I'm going to ask you this first question, because you know what all our upcoming games are from Cyanvish. Can we go on a winning streak? How many matches? And when could we have our next potential slump?
Leicester will beat, Everton will beat, Leicester away will beat, Everton at home will beat, Bournemouth at home will beat, Fulham away. They're on a bit of a run. Willian will come back and haunt us. Crystal Palace at home will beat. Leeds at home will smash. It's going to be Liverpool away on the 9th of April. Is going to be a tough one.
Which I believe is after the international break.
Yeah.
So plenty of time.
Oh, God, remember those international breaks?
Yeah.
Aren't they fun?
I reckon another 5 or 6 games. But they're going Liverpool. I mean, we've seen tonight. I mean, I'm the only one not watching the game. They seem to be not having a great time of it. And I like the way we're now having pot shots. We've been saying for ages, just have pot shots from nowhere, and we did it against Villa, and we got a couple of goals out of it. Wonderful.
It was the thing which we didn't do at City, wasn't it? Didn't get our shots away, and you know how angry Arteta gets when we don't get shots away. I think Smith Rowe said it last season that the manager said, "Why don't you just fucking shoot? You're not going to score if you don't." Yeah.
Right, next question from Fred Thurbin. Josh, there are more billionaires/states potentially coming into the league. Man United, Liverpool, although I do think Fenway Sports said Liverpool's now not for sale, but who knows. What do you think is the short-term impact, I assume he means, on the game, say for the next 5 years? Will we see a breakaway league, a salary spending cap, etc.?
I suppose just to quickly talk on what FSG said. Now they're no longer for sale. I think can't sell. I think that's what John W. Henry actually means, is he can't find a buyer, because who knows what he's smoking when he's asking for whatever ridiculous fee they want for Liverpool. Anyway,
for a finished club.
Yes, I think we're always going to see billionaires coming in. I think you need to be a billionaire, or at least some form of group of billionaires to afford a Premier League club now. It's very different when you've got state-backed entities coming in. That's it's interesting that you've got basically, I'm supposed to put it on a basic point of view. Would you rather see clubs in private hands or in public hands that isn't your public? It's a difficult question, I suppose, to answer. I don't think we'll see a breakaway league. I think any talk of Super League, if I remember correctly, and something that was completely missed by every journalist that doesn't do their job properly, was that this was, instead of European fixtures, not instead of domestic football. Domestic football was always going to continue as it was. I would expect that perhaps we see
it'll come back in
some
another
tightening of
version.
FFP. Oh yeah, the Champions League is going to get rehashed at some point, and UEFA will keep fighting off a better way, depending on who you say is better, format for European football. But for domestic football, I can only see stronger sanctions for wheeler dealing, shall I say?
Especially as the government are threatening a outside regulatory body.
Yeah. The most worrying thing I can see in it is if Man United get state backing, because they're the only club in the world that I think don't need to hide their commercial revenue to pump in stupid money to put them by far and away almost untouchable. But as we say, as you can see right now, you can have as much money at United as you want, and still, if the system isn't there, you're still going to be having Weghorst up front as your number 10.
Kris,
Cup, that's what I say.
Kris, this is a good one for you from Crimson Pirate. Is Balogun better than Eddie?
Not yet, but he has the potential to be so. I think he's developed. He's getting the opportunity to develop. I think the only comparison you can have is that Eddie went on loan to Leeds and didn't. He was very well liked at Leeds, by the way, under Bielsa, but he didn't get a huge amount of game time. Certainly didn't get the level of goals that Eddie's got. That Balogun's got, sorry. And the difference is with Balogun, obviously he went to Middlesbrough and he didn't play a huge amount. He's now got this second loan and has found, this home for himself. I think they're on very similar trajectories right now. As I say, the difference is Balogun's playing week in, week out. That forward line at Rams is built around him, and he's got a coach who literally says to him, "Go out and do your job." Did miss a penalty, should be said, at the weekend. Had his penalty saved by Kasper Schmeichel, but he's definitely got the potential to be there. But I don't think he's, Eddie's playing week in, week out for a Premier League team that's chasing the title right now, whereas Balogun is obviously playing for a mid-table team at Rams without any expectations. So there's nothing wrong with saying they're both good.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, we've got 3 more questions. We'll whiz through really quick. Pete Colton, do you wish Arteta was more vocal regarding the kicking that Saka gets every game? If Ferguson was his manager, he would be banging on about it every press conference. I'll take this one. Personally, for me, no. I actually think I like the way Arteta handles it and says that it's something Saka has to deal with. Because regardless of how much people talk about it, it's still going to happen. And if you can't live with that physicality, he's not going to be able to play his game, because that is his game, is that he's just going to have to do that. I think the way he receives the ball is much smarter now. That sort of side on, he doesn't, so he's not just getting cleared out from the back and sort of unexpected. And also I think there's a danger that if you go on about it too much, you can make the player buy into it and almost get that victim mentality that you do see with certain individuals like Zaha, and there's a few others that kind of have that everyone's against me sort of attitude. And if anything, it ends up the referees just get annoyed with you for constantly complaining. So I think so far he's dealing with it quite well. And the best thing is the fact that his teammates are dealing with it really well. The moment he jumped up at Coutinho, the entire team was there around him, protecting him, and backing him up. So I think that's all good. Right, 2 more quick questions, because Kris really does have to run off. It's not all Kris's fault as well. I've got things to do. Crimson Pirate, what pundit do you hate the most? Right, I'll give you 3 all a chance to think of your most hated pundit. Mine's a straight split between Chris Sutton and Gary Neville. Chris Sutton is just an awful pundit. Gary Neville is a pretty good pundit, unless he's talking about Man United or Arsenal, in which case he loses all rationality and says that, it's okay to take money for Qataris, because then I can talk about gay rights, but I'm still taking their money and not giving it to charity, and I'm a, hypocritical scumbag. Anyway, so there's my 2. Josh.
It's really difficult, because this isn't because it's a a field of limited numbers. It's a field of many numbers. I'm going to go straight in for 2. Danny Mills, Gabriel Bonlahor.
Nice. I like that. Double talk sport header of baldness as well. Very good. Kris.
It's not hard, this one. Jermaine Jenas. What's that? Absolute fuckwit that guy is.
Oh, and he's
just awful. Just doesn't understand anything, and he so blatantly dicks Spurs in every commentary. It's embarrassing.
And I've heard Agbonglahor, Chris Sutton, and Danny Mills say sensible things at times before. I don't think I've ever heard.
I've never even heard Jermaine Jenas say something sensible on the One Show, which has nothing to do with football. So, and my second worst pundit is Simon Collins. What an absolute
he's terrible. I heard a rumor that apparently the trouble in the press box may have involved someone with a slightly quiffed haircut. But
well, if you notice on that footage when that guy's kicking off, Simon does clearly do the old. Like, he clearly started it. I mean,
he's clearly looking around going, "Oh, I'm glad they didn't realise that was me."
Yeah. I reckon he was pissed. I think he.
I heard he had stink bombs. He had stink bombs and rolled them underneath. That was it.
Never trust Collins.
Danny, your most hated pundit?
Karen Carney. Well, there's going to kick the ball, mate.
It's actually one of your better accents, that.
And who's that Irish bloke, black bloke, played for Ireland, Crystal Palace, English?
Clinton Morrison?
That fuckwit. The girls will talk like a baby. He knows his stuff, but he talks like a baby. I can't stand him. And you've got Vicky Sparks with that horrible, that accent she's got. It's messed up. I don't like it. Basically, women shouldn't be commentating on men's football, and men shouldn't commentate on women's football.
Oh, God.
I don't want to see men commentating on women's football either. Leave it to the women.
YouTube comments might need to be turned off this week because I can't deal with that again.
On the upside, I suppose I can just say it's views like that. That's why Danny would work so well in the podcasting department at The Athletic.
Have you ever watched the Athletic podcast with Chappers? He's like this the whole time. Trying to get all of his fingers up his fucking nose and his mouth and then up his nose.
For the record, there are some very, very good female pundits out there. For the record,
Kelly Cates.
And for the record,
they
were mainly fired by The Athletic last week for not getting the numbers.
Who's gone?
Yeah. The Offside Rule pod.
The Offside Rule pod, yeah. There is one, just really quickly, actually. There is one female pundit I can't stand. I think she's called Melissa Reddy, I think she's called. She was over in Qatar. She honestly, she just makes up as she goes along. She's very pretty. Now, I don't want to cast aspersions on how she got where she got, but she's very pretty. That's it.
It's the only way I got on this podcast.
Absolutely. That's the only reason I got the hosting gig, that was the face.
But my all-time favourite duo to do every single sports show, Kelly Cates and Ian Wright. You are never, ever going to beat that.
Laura Woods is pretty good.
Yeah, Laura Woods is good. Yeah.
I thought you was going to say Gray and Keys. Fucking
but
hairy hands and balding.
And the scary thing is, in the day, they were the best. That's the scary part. Like, as in,
well, that's the
amazing what happens when you, amazing what happens when you hold back women.
Back in the good old days, you could go home and knock your wife around. And no, I'm joking. We're not joking about that. But no, in the old days of Sky, that they were the best. But but then Ron Atkinson was a brilliant co-commentator, and that didn't end very well, did it? So
no, it didn't.
Times have changed, people. Times have changed.
Had very progressive views.
And also, Alan Shearer is very good now. I tweeted this on Saturday.
No,
so
he's good now.
He's come on leaps and bounds. He's very, very good now.
Is it good enough to justify his salary? By the way,
no.
I mean, I don't pay
the BBC.
I don't have a TV license. Of course, I don't watch Match of the Day or anything else ever.
We go to the sit-out front, the radio rentals, and watch it.
Yeah. And by the way, just confirm, Phil. I can confirm that would never happen. John's far more likely than me, trust me. Right. Are we all done then? I'm waiting for the nudge for my phone call, which will be imminent any second now. But
we're all done.
All done. Splendid. Right. Yes, I have some work related stuff that I have to go and attend to, and John has has Mysteries of the Night to go and have fun with. So
and I've got
I'm sure
Valheim.
I'm sure Josh has got like a burger that he's got to create that's made out of bubbles or something. I don't know.
I've already eaten dinner. I've probably got to produce said post-meal
thing?
treat.
Right.
Sexy dance on the table again.
I don't even want to know what that might be, to be fair.
It'll involve an avocado. It always does with these young people. That's why they've got no money.
And I'm sure Danny's got at least like 4 skipfuls of Tassimo coffees to get through tonight, or whatever it is he does.
Mama.
It does at night. But we will be back. Preview show, Danny, for Leicester. Are you bothering to do one? Can you be bothered to do one?
It'll be on the Friday. I'm going to try and get some different people on that I forget to go on. If anybody sees Jeff Arsenal or Femi, let us know, because we haven't heard or seen from either of them. I sent Jeff a message in November. He still hasn't read it.
Well, you know what it is, don't you? They're both rich. So they don't need to respond to messages. That's what it is.
I think Jeff and Femi have taken all the £2.50 that we've made off YouTube for the past 3 years, and they've run. And they've
Phil gave us a tenner last week. Look, Phil is our sugar daddy.
Phil's a legend.
You say you. I've not seen any of that tenner. I've seen nothing of it.
Not a penny. Oh dear. Right. We are going to get out of here then on that note. So thank you to those who've been with us live, both on YouTube and Twitch. As usual, if you are, especially on YouTube, or well, actually on both platforms, do give us a follow. Flick the like button, leave us a review. If you're not moaning, put a comment in the YouTube. If you are moaning, then I'll just come after you in the comments. So just don't waste my time or yours. But no, in all seriousness, thank you for tuning in, because without you lot, it would be just 3 blokes or 4 blokes just wittering on about nothing, which, to be fair, is exactly what we do anyway. But you still tune in, so whatever. But thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it very much. John, Josh, Danny, thank you all for your company this evening.
Cheers.
I'll be available to podcast elsewhere when we inevitably get cancelled due to Danny's views.
Yeah.
Not started it.
This has been the final Bergkamp Wonderland ever to be produced before we all get shut down.
Miracle, who'd have thought?
You know that meme when it's like, FBI, open up, and that's going to be us. That'll be us tomorrow morning. Anyway, until we pop up on another platform under a different moniker, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you. We love you. Keep it Arsenal, and we'll speak to you very soon. Take care.
As soon as I scored that goal, I was fucking livid. Get down, dog. Splendid business.
He nearly caught the bloody thing. What are you talking about?
So I was just eating a full quiche. Well, you don't often see them at it. So when you see them in the supermarket, they need to be swagged, microwaved immediately, and get the brown sauce on and bosh, Bob's your uncle.
Never in doubt.